Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I got an interesting story this morning. The Midland Reporter Telegram, our paper here in Midland, Texas, ran a story yesterday called "These Texas-Built Bunkers Are Becoming Luxury Subterranean Shelters as Pandemic Spreads. Bunker owners are preparing for an underground escape." And there's a picture of it of one of the underground facilities, and they've got 119 of these pictures. And it says Texas bunker manufacturer Gary Lynch sets demands at a all-time high because of the pandemic going on. And so I thought this was real interesting, and I also thought it was interesting that they were even the Midland Reporter Telegram ran this article because of the believed bunkers here that are connected to all the crimes, and so y'all can go Google that and find that article, and really interesting. The guy's name here was Gary Lynch, general manager, and I wonder if Gary Lynch knows about any underground bunkers that were installed here in Midland, Texas, that have been used for pedophile parties, prostitution parties, oil show parties, and multiple murders. And so a real investigator, the kind that don't sneak into homes and murder innocent people, then might want to talk to him, but I got a feeling, I think it's finally become, just exceedingly obvious that there's no lack of evidence problem here. The problem is obstruction of justice and just outright lawlessness. That's what's going on. We have an overabundance of evidence to expose the underground facilities here and to solve multiple murders. And the problem has been the public corruption that's going on. No amount of evidence is ever going to be enough evidence. So, until we can find some legitimate law enforcement. And so, anyways, here it's saying interesting. The low end bunker is about $45,000, and the most luxurious are 16,000 square foot bunkers, and up into the millions. Now, remember the woman on the phone call, the recorded phone call. She tells me that there's 4 3-bedroom underground homes at least 25 foot deep, and they cost over $1 million a piece. And then another woman, Layla O'Brien, she said she's a CAD programmer and worked on this underground project back in the 80s, and it cost 7 point some odd million dollars. She thought the Bushes were connected to it, and Bush was vice president at the time when that happened. She called them the safe house. I have a print screen of that. And so I ran a Facebook post this morning. What it reminded me of, let me show you something else. Back in, I'm shot in January 2012, and then a year and a half later, I get served papers for a protective order, and because of that ruling, a lot of people have and I was slandered, my character was defamed, etc. in that case, and it wasn't brought out in that case that this is a premeditated capital attempted murder, that the person that filed the protective order, the ex-wife, is alleged to be involved in the murder attempt. But during this this is a transcript during the protective order hearing. The ADA, the assistant district attorney, because the ex-wife got with the district attorney and brought up the word bunkers like 4 different times. I kept hearing bunkers. Well, I hadn't even thought about bunkers, and this was before I had recorded the lady on the phone telling me there's 4 underground homes here. Well, another name for an underground home is a bunker, right? And I'm looking back and I'm going, I bet you that district attorney knew all along these bunkers were here. She knew about these 4 3-bedroom underground $1 million homes where they're hosting international oil show parties, and that's why they brought up. That's why she was using the word bunkers, and so I thought that was interesting, and just the facts of this case. We don't want to forget that was a 3-month marriage. Where I'd filed divorce 5 days before I'm shot, and she's alleged to be involved in the shooting. And here she lived over 100 miles away, and I hadn't seen her, talk to her in a year and a half, and she files a protective order on me. Most people think a protective order is to keep somebody from stalking you, harassing you, or whatever. And you can't stalk somebody who lives 100 miles away you hadn't seen her, talk to in a year and a half. You know, and a lot of people have just thought this was absurdity. You know, and but I thought it was really interesting. Bunkers was the word that was used in the protective order here back in 2013, and maybe that ADA, you know, a legitimate law enforcement officer, you know, should maybe want to ask and just say, did you really know about them bunkers in Midland, Texas, where they were hosting international oil show parties and murdering little girls, you know, and just ask some questions, because I think that is a very valid question. Another thing it reminded me of, I did a Facebook post this morning called "Accidentally Deleted Records." Okay, and that was a heading on it. And then I started with, these are emails between myself and Julia Weidemann, a very nice lady who drove down from Dallas to investigate the $1 Million underground bunkers said to be connected with pedophile parties. Remember, I have a recorded phone call on that. Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano recently said this was the late Sheriff Gary Painter's hideout. I have a recorded phone call on that. And I have a reason to believe they were hosting the famous oil show prostitution parties there, and that's where my friend was at. My friend told me about a young girl that was murdered in an oil show party in 2010, and it's also suspected of being connected with the murder of Mike Lawhon, the previous young owner of my home, who died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Okay, and so I went and copied and pasted the emails, and this is from November 2019. And I wrote Julia and I said, Julia, I hired a private investigator with hopes to expose the underground facilities and those that tried to murder me, and I think we're getting close now. One thing I wanted to share with him was what James Rawls told you about the underground records being deleted, and or how proud he was to tell you that. Can you explain that to me again, and I will forward your reply on. I did some research on him and found that he used to work for Home Depot, so I felt sure that he knows about the underground facility and associated murders and other crimes. And then I put links here, James Rawls LinkedIn, James Rawls Facebook, and Jeff PINKSTAFF construction permits, and he's with the city of Midland. And I'm going to click on them real quick. This is the LinkedIn, okay, for James Rawls, showing him being paint supervisor at Home Depot, Midland, Texas, okay? And so 2015, etc. And evidently he's working for the city, because that's what Julia said. And then here he's a quality control specialist at McClinton Energy, and started May 2013. And I'm best I can tell, he wasn't here when I was ambushed and shot, because he's a machine operator in Iowa. I think that's Iowa, AA. Y'all can help me. I think it is Washington, Iowa. And when I was shot in January 2012, okay? And then he was in the Army here, okay? And, all right, well, okay, so that was the LinkedIn. And here's his Facebook. I just went and found it. Real easy to do a search on him. You know, and I was pretty sure it says, because it said former sales specialist at Home Depot, and went to Big Springs High School, and look at there's the Midland Police Department. So, you know, and I bet he's friends with Midland police officers, Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hell, that were listed on the police report as being at or inside my home when they wasn't seen arriving at my home or entering the door. And that told me they came from under my home, and the tunnels are said to be here, and most likely in the underground bunkers, okay? And so anyway, there's James Rawls, and let's look here. One last link here that I put in there, and this was what I sent an email to Julia, okay? And this is the city of Midland, okay? This is online, y'all can find it. Construction permits and inspections, because there's requirements, government requirements, building codes, etc. and contact Jeff PINKSTAFF. Okay, and there's a phone number, and I think it's interesting because what here in a minute what we're going to read is she's going to explain how they accidentally deleted all the records for anything underground, and that's amazing in itself. When, backups have been, people have known about backups for a long time. You shouldn't be accidentally deleting records, especially government required records, and it's very convenient you accidentally deleted records that some people questioned were they accidentally deleted to cover up multiple murders. And I think that's a good question. Maybe Jeff PINKSTAFF needs to be asked by legitimate law enforcement. Remember, the kind that doesn't sneak into homes, covers up capital murders, okay? And ask them questions. What do you know about these deleted records? Why didn't you have a backup? Have you ever heard of backups? And so here's Julia's response to me. Excellent idea, buddy. What tenacity. And she makes a reference to a true Chickasaw warrior spirit indeed. The cabal chose the wrong one when they chose you. They're regretting that decision as we speak. Anyway, she goes on, James Rawls was clearly prepared to tell me about the missing records. The basis of our conversation was RC 2015-2018, Chapter 3, Section whatever, regulating storm shelters. He went and got the book in another room when I brought it up. Fort Worth uses 2015, and that's where Julia was from, but Midland uses 2018. But according to Rawls, there had been no changes made to that section for 2018. And when I asked him about the permit records for storm shelters in Midland, he, with a smile, told me that all of the permit records prior to 2015 had been destroyed or lost due to an attempt to digitize the department's records in 2014 and 2015. And that's what I was talking about. I worked in IT. I can promise you that in 2014 and 2015, the IT people had heard of what's called backups. You make backups. You don't accidentally delete government required records, okay? And that's what you should be asking Rawls and PINKSTAFF about. I asked him twice if he was the gatekeeper for these records, and he answered that he was. In other words, there was nowhere else to go but his office. They're just gone. And when I brought up the subject of a basement at Home Depot, it clearly unnerved him. But he was downright gloating about those missing records and emphasized a number of times that requests to build storm shelters in Midland would be rare. He kept repeating that as if someone had told him to keep repeating it. We really don't get requests like that, like that for storm shelter permits. Well, he was quite a character, animated, instead of with a matter-of-fact professionalism. That one would expect with a conversation as dry as storm shelters. I have an appointment on Friday with James Rawls, etc., residential, etc. Okay. And so that was her response. And then I put the references here, and these are the videos, and these are fact-filled videos. $1 Million Underground Facilities is the secretly recorded phone call with a woman told me that there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes here, at least 25 foot deep, cost over $1 million a piece, and they were having pedophile parties there. Sheriff Painter's hideout. That's the secretly recorded call from a recent sheriff candidate named Joe Lozano. Recorded telling me that after I told him about the underground facilities, he told me that was Painter's hideout. That was the exact words he used, and that's in that video right there, that recording. And we just had a recent sheriff election, and this guy was running for sheriff. He could have even been sheriff, and he's the one telling me Painter the last, and Painter's no longer alive, used to hang out underground. Okay, 2010 oil show party murder, that has evidence and facts, and it was about my friend that told me about the young girl murdered at the oil show party. She was out. She was here at my house and leaving my house and at the party in 5 minutes. I believe it was going on in these underground facilities, or bunkers. Now we call them bunkers, right? Thanks to the ADA. and the Midland Reporter Telegram. Okay, and then the suspected murder of Michael Hahn, the previous owner of my house, that dies 2 weeks before I transfer in town as the next unsuspected victim, right? And he died the week before the 2008 oil show started, which is mighty convenient if they're having these parties in the backyard, And then I have a screenshot of the email. I just went to my email and took a screenshot of what I read to you a minute ago. And And then I come into the comments, and this is what we already looked at. This was yesterday's article in the Midland Reporter Telegram. This was a screenshot I took, and this was several years ago, but it was after the protective order hearing, where a woman named Rhonda Denman Rogers. And I'll tell her, I said, my home is sitting on top of some underground facility, which is very important, or at least it's near this facility. And Rhonda said, I know it's a half block away. Now I made this point before. She didn't say it was a block and a half away. She didn't say it was 2.5 blocks away, right? She said it was a half block away. She knew exactly how far it was. So a legitimate law enforcement, once again, the ones that don't try to cover up capital murders and these $1 million underground bunkers, a legitimate law enforcement officer, kind of not obstructing justice and making a mockery of our justice system, might want to ask Rhonda Denman Rogers exactly where it is. I got a feeling they know, and the reason they know, because that's where Davis, Dickie, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale was, and where Sheriff Painter used to hang out, right? So they don't really have to ask her, right? My next comment here, it's what I did. I went to Google Earth. It's a free download. And put in my address, 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas, and you go to the historical maps. This map here was dated in June 2011, and that was about 6 months before I was ambushed and shot in a premeditated capital murder attempt, home invasion murder attempt. And so you can see the Home Depot store behind my house, the secluded truck unloading lane behind it, and that's where it looked like the sex trafficking was going on, and the people in the attic were going over meeting the truckers and all that. I think most of that's gone. Looking at this picture, you can tell where the tree hadn't been removed yet. Now it's gone, and there was suspected tunnel entrance over there. You can see this suspected tunnel entrance here. Okay. But one thing real interesting, you can see where the ground is cut. See the asphalt a different color right here behind Home Depot? It looks like a tunnel was cut right here, and you project it out, and it goes right into my den. Okay, and that's interesting because the woman on the recorded phone call said something about my den. They're coming in my den, and so that's what it looks like there. And remember, here's Ricky Ronaldo that used to live in my house, and says when we were kids, me and my brother used to always go down there, in the tunnels under the house. Okay, this side of my home is where I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home 2 weeks after I reported a suspected tunnel to the DEA. So a legitimate law enforcement may want to talk to people at the DEA that and see what if they're actually setting people up to be murdered that report crime. Not all of them. The one I talked to. And I called the El Paso and the Midland DEA. I'm sure there's records on it. That was in January 2012. Legitimate law enforcement might talk to Ricky, find out where the tunnels are. The real truth is that I think they already know, okay? And that's why they don't have to talk to him, because that's where Davis, Dickie, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, and Painter used to hang out down there, Sheriff Painter. Because it's believed in my backyard is where the underground facility, home, or bunker is. 3-bedroom underground home, 25 foot deep. And then the parking, if you had a large party, you need a lot of parking. Well, there's a big parking lot on the other side of Home Depot there. And I was in that store, and I was telling the clerk there about what happened to me. I'm ambushed, shot somebody in my home, etc. And she just blurts out, if you happen to see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, it's because we're stalking. I hadn't seen that, hadn't thought about it, hadn't asked that. But then you do think it out. You're thinking, a lot of people would be at an oil show party. It's a convention, right? and they need somewhere to park, and they would need an excuse, right, to explain why they're parking there late at night, And so I'm suspecting they're parking there, going underground somewhere in that building, coming over here via the tunnel, and here's one of the 4 underground homes, and that's where the prostitution parties were going on. That's where the pedophile parties were going on. That's where Painter used to hang out, etc. Okay, my friend that was at the 2010 also party where the girl was murdered, she told me about it, would leave my house, and in 5 minutes she would be at the location of the party. I know that because we were talking on the phone while she drove. Okay, I'm thinking she drove from my home over to the front of Home Depot and parked, and then she went in, she went under down, come over here through the tunnel right here, and then the next thing no, she's over here under my home is where she's at. Okay, here's the next one. Okay. Just last year, a woman said, go to maps.google.com. This is Google Maps on the internet. Anybody can do it. Maps.google.com. Put in 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas, and you're going to see a button there that says map and satellite. Okay. This picture over here is the map view. Okay. Once again, this is my home. I was ambushed and shot here. The map view shows a large facility in my backyard. Okay. I've got it labeled bunker. Okay. Over here on the satellite view where the plane flew over, you don't see it. On the map view, you see it. On the satellite view, you don't see it. Okay. Well, I've been told that there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes, 25 foot deep. Rhonda Denman Rogers said one of them's half block away. I think that is one of them right there. I think that's it, and that's where they were having an also party. That's probably where that young girl was murdered. Remember, they found the remains of a young girl outside of Midland about a year and a half later in 2013. Ain't nobody trying to figure out who that is. As best I can tell. The news done one story about that 14 to 21-year-old girl. And I already said that, where it's a recorded where they were having them pedophile parties. So anyways, bunkers in Midland, Texas, same bunkers, same things, underground homes, right?